Okay, looks like we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Node tooling meeting for was it February 19th? So yeah, let's jump right into the agenda here. Looks like the agenda is much cleaned up over the last few times. We've only got a couple things on here. So we can run through those and then get on to any new business. So first on the agenda is recursive copy, which I have not really done anything else on since our last meeting. I don't really have any updates there. We still have the, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I think we left off at last meeting saying we would try to do like just, did we ever reach out to the folks from FS Extra? I feel like that's one easy low-hanging thing we could do.
I thought we maybe did that during the meeting last time. Let me just take a quick look here. Oh, no, it looks like no.
Why don't we maybe do that and just say we're thinking of using yours as a reference implementation. Would you be open to that? It could even just be a sentence.
Right. We probably don't know their GitHub usernames offhand.
We found it. Yeah. I don't remember what it was though. So
I thought we did this last time.
I thought so too, actually.
I know we did this for another topic, which was the proxying.
Let me try to pull up the previous meeting minutes, see if I can get anything out of that.
It's Ryan Zim who is the one. He's Ryan Zim on GitHub who is being super helpful. Let me find the. Sorry, I'm a mess here. Let me actually get the notes open.
Yeah, this is, I'll share last week's notes in case anybody wants. That's last week's.
Oh yeah, okay. I think I found him here. So I'll just say like we're considering using FS Extra's recursive copy implementation. Would love your feedback on this.
That makes sense to me. Why am I not seeing they used to attach the minutes to the issue? Is it not anymore?
It should be in there. Oh, wait, which issue?
Oh, sorry, I found it. I was
Good.
just bad at typing. So the two folks who were helping were Ryan Zim, and I will remember the other contributor too. Let me see if I can find them. Remember them if I saw them because they were on the Rimraf issue we were having.
These are FS Extra folks?
I think so, yeah. Ryan Zim is.
Yeah, so I've got him mentioned here. So I just said we're considering using the FS Extra recursive copy implementation to implement this in Node.js. Love your feedback on this proposal and on incorporating part of FS Extra into Node Core.
Yeah, maybe just even make it more like, would you be open to doing this? Because usually people are pretty happy to have us use their implementation or at least reference it. Just looking for them in our, not finding them. I know there was one other person we could flag. Here. Oh, here we are. CX Res. Maybe they're not a. I think he's just another interested party, maybe. Let's see here. Okay, so the other person is CX Res, which I'm going to put in the notes. I don't know if they're an FS Extra person or not, though. I'll put extra Ryan's in.
I don't
in the notes.
think they are.
This is the kind of the conversation where we went deep on. This is where we interact with them in the past on on the Rimraf stuff.
Okay.
So should I also be tagging them?
I
Yeah,
think
if you
so.
don't-
They say, yeah.
Okay. Oh, you put it in the notes, not I was looking in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I put it in the notes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were both like really had some really good feedback on the Rimraf implementation as it related to like kind of operating system level calls, and I thought they're pretty knowledgeable. I think they'd be good people to talk to about the copy recursive stuff.
Okay. So I posted that on the recursive copy issue. Yeah, like I said, other than that, I haven't worked on this in the last couple of weeks, so I think kind of we're still at that. I think we agreed the proposal is like in a reasonable state. So yeah, I guess we're just looking for feedback at this point. See what they have to say, and then move it on to the main repo.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have a better way to detect a process is exiting.
I have done no work on that, and but I think my action item is probably to talk to Joy, or maybe Anna.
Okay. I know you haven't done anything on that because you were working on the next thing here. Source map v3 support in Node.
Yes, I have landed the PR. I think it's gone out with 5.9.0. We now don't do the fancy thing where we were trying to show both stack traces. We just show the transpiled stack trace. So that has been merged. And then I have approval to remove I have what looks like good support to remove the experimental flag from that feature, which looks like I have one edit I need to do, but otherwise it looks good to go. I just pasted that in the notes too. So
do you know, you said that shipped in like the last version of 15. Do you know if that's going to be like backported at all?
I don't know that there's a plan to backport we'll see. I mean, it's not listed as a breaking change, so I think it would be backported by default to
Okay.
active release lines like 14 if it's not breaking. So we'll probably end up in 14, and I think 12 they're not backporting to anymore, I don't think, if I recall. So
okay,
I don't think
that's
so.
good to know. I don't actually know how that process works, so
yeah. I only vaguely know, but I think if it cleanly applies, they tend to backport if it's any of the maintained release lines. So
right
when the release goes out, yeah.
Okay, just
in the
curious.
past,
I know we're just in the process of switching over to Node 14, and I would love to use that functionality. So
yeah, you'll have it in 12 and 14 already, but it will have like kind of the different syntax where it has it might be worth, I think you're right, it might be worth flagging and whoever's the release manager for 14 and just make sure that we try to move that back. I think that's a good call out.
Yeah, I think maybe if you want to be really proactive about it, you can actually open the backport PR for 14 or yeah.
How does that work, Roy? Do you just like make it against the 14.x branch?
Yeah. And basically you have to manage all the conflicts, right? Because as the release manager, like often we don't have all the conflicts, right? Like, so the hard part is really managing the conflicts. So usually the contributor that wrote the feature knows better.
Yeah, this is pretty low thrash part of the code base, so we'll probably apply cleanly. Cool.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's a good next step for that.
Yeah, and then there's the only other thing is I linked it there. There's a documentation only removal of. I'm just committing the suggestion now. There's a documentation only removal of the experimental language.
Right.
So, I mean, I might even merge that today.
Because that was only marked as experimental in the docs?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, good to see that feature moving towards completion.
Yeah, I even got feedback on it. Corey said he liked it and is going to update NYC's docs to point to it. So that was unsolicited user feedback that it's working well for them. So that's good.
Nice.
And I use the heck out of it. It's useful. So cool. All right, I think that's all there is to say there. I think the features come together pretty well over the last year. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Cool. Yeah, let's move on. So next on the agenda is argument parsing. I'm not sure if we're going to want to take a longer time talking about that, though. Maybe we, if there's any like new business, we could get that out of the way and then spend the rest of the meeting on argument parsing.
That sounds good.
My new business would be Node fetch. I saw a bunch of conversation. I saw some heated conversation happening about it on Twitter this last week, and I don't know the state of it, but I'd love to. If there's any way we can help, I'd love to pitch in. Maybe it's worth us opening an issue and just doing some forensics. If there's...
Yeah, that's a tough one. I also was kind of following some of that conversation. Starting to feel though like too many cooks. You know what I mean? Like I want to help, but I also don't want to just add to the noise. I'm not sure how best to approach that.
It's weird to what I found weird about the conversation is that we've had some pretty good, well, where I thought, I'm going to backpedal and make this a more positive sentence. Where I think we could help this conversation is we've actually done a really good job of just pulling in third-party stuff. Like we pulled in Rimraf to help do the recursive removal stuff. And it's been in the code base for, I think, well over a year now. It's been working. Customers like it. I'm trying to figure out why it has to be like a clean room reimplementation of Node Fetch's API if there's a good Node Fetch implementation in the community, or I guess the two arguments I saw was like we can't have 100% of the functionality, so we shouldn't have the functionality was I think one argument I saw that was floating around in a thread. And anyways, you might be right, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, but I feel like that would be such a usability win for Node.js to have.
Oh yeah, I want this functionality very badly. I want to help with it, but I'm just not sure what the best way to do that is. Definitely, I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth following along. I also don't really understand the argument. I think part of it might be related to wanting to re-implement it on top of Indici. But like I said, it's kind of hard to follow. There's a lot going on there.
Well, I mean, I think Matteo is actively involved, and he's like an absolute expert at streams and like performant web applications. So, like, if he's involved, he's the right person to be involved. So,
right. I saw on Twitter he was implying though that it's like a lot of work, like 6 months or more, like full-time work for someone.
Wow.
Which is a bit surprising, but I mean, I assume he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if that work was happening, be great to help out with, but I don't know what the state of that is.
Maybe one action item is like for folks who work at, GitHub or NPM or Microsoft or Google or IBM. I'm just saying everyone here. Like, are there any resources? Like, is it worth instigating if there's any resources to help out on this? If it was a full-time engineer, to do it.
Yeah, that was kind of what he was saying. Is like it's a big piece of work like that, and no one has either like stepped up to do the work or to sponsor someone to do the work or whatever. Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree though. I very much would love to see that in Node.
Give a link to that feedback specifically.
Let me find that
or like if you can find the link to that comment,
it's all over.
So I can. But if there's a specific comment that says something along the lines of like what you just said.
Yeah. From Matteo.
I think Ethan from Microsoft is like enthusiastically trying to get something like that to happen, right? That he could work full-time on something like this. He's already contributing to Indici quite a lot.
Right.
That's kind of the ideal. Yeah. I think I can understand Mateo. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I have one more short piece of new business, but if you have more to say on the fetch thing, go ahead.
Oh, UI. I think that's good. I think it is worth maybe going back and, seeing if there are any resources in respective companies, and kind of linking to Mateo's thing. But
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I know at IBM, I think everybody's already working. Everybody I can think of has already kind of got their hands full with Node stuff. I mean, I'd be happy to chip in for sure. So I will keep an eye on that and see how I can help.
Yeah, I mean, if it's really that much work, then I mean, that's gonna take some serious like coordination on someone's part to help make that happen,
I think I can understand. I was going to just say, I think I can understand Mateo's perspective, which is like, if we're going to do this, let's also make it a performance improvement. Do it right.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else there, I was just quickly going to mention there's a little more progress on the Rimraf recursive deprecation. That's kind of still ongoing. Someone opened a PR to sort of complete the deprecation of that. There's a little bit of debate about the actual process. Do we want to? So what's happening in Node 16, I think, is the permissive functionality will be, it's already like deprecated and it will be removed. But then the question is, do we want to deprecate like the recursive option entirely from Rimraf? And what's the best way to do that? Do we do it as like a doc only deprecation in 16, a runtime deprecation in 17, and then remove it in 18, or go straight to the runtime deprecation? So that's kind of the current state of that. There's a bit of a debate about the exact process for deprecating it, and I think sounds like that might end up on the agenda at a TSC meeting. I think you proposed that, right, Ben?
Yeah, I think that just to like, I don't feel super strongly in either direction. It's like, I think whether we end up with a runtime deprecation or not, like the basic plan's the same. So, but I think it would be good just for visibility for the TSC to see it, because it will bite a few people. Because when you Google Rimraf recursive, like there's a few thousand users. So I think like it's a decision we should make intentionally. I'm willing to take the plan to the TSC and see if they have a strong opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't. I think I mentioned on that thread, like I don't have it doesn't really matter to me either way. I'm in favor of doing it faster or as fast as possible, because I think the longer it stays there, the more and more people are going to rely on it. But yeah, I think whatever the consensus is, I'm happy with.
Yeah, so I mean, the plan's basically, the way I read the last comment was the first step's basically the same, which is that we actually remove the permissive behavior in 16, which we already had a runtime deprecation on, right? But the real question is, do we output to the console a message, hey, this is deprecated, don't use recursive at all in Node 16, or do we just have that in docs that says, don't use this in 16, it's going to go away in 17? Right. I think almost have a slight preference for the runtime deprecation in 16, personally.
That's also my preference, yeah. If we're going to do it, like why wait and leave it there longer? It just means more people are likely to start using it.
So but if we're in understanding, this would mean you get an annoying warning in your logs, right? And get nudged toward, right? It wouldn't like break all those applications. So it just give you an annoying log warning. Okay.
Yep.
And you say there's a PR? I'm trying to find it.
There is a PR to do part of this, the deprecating the like permissive behavior where you can point it at like a file and it'll delete the file, or you can point it at something that doesn't exist and it'll just silently pretend that it succeeded. That part is being or has been deprecated and is being removed. Did I get that right? I think so. So it's all very confusing.
I've got the link. I'm going to link it right now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so that part, I think, like that PR, I think is good. It's just the question is like, okay, what's the next step in this process?
Yeah, so I guess the action item would be if anyone has opinions, they can chime in on that PR. But I feel like just having someone rubber stamp it from the TSC might be good, and then just go with the plan. So it sounds pretty darn close to us knowing what we're doing.
Okay, yeah, that's all I had on that topic. I just wanted to mention the progress on that. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring up before we jump into, oh, Joe?
Yeah, I just want to double back real quickly on the source map one. Looking at the notes, Ian, you said let's be proactive about backporting this. Can you just explain to me what needs to be backported?
Yeah, we Ben's most recent PR changed the output of the stack trace.
That's 37252.
No, let me find the right one.
Okay.
Because that's the one that's not merged yet. Yeah.
It's not a breaking change, right? It's just let it in the minor, right?
It's not a breaking change officially because it's an experimental feature and we thought it was low risk, but it's technically a breaking change. Like if someone was relying on the output of the console format.
Right. Yeah, given that it was behind the experimental flag, maybe it is fine to land on 14.
I just put the link at the top.
Great.
There we go. 37252 is the one. I think it's relatively low risk because one, we didn't want to call it breaking because it's an experimental feature and experimental features indicate that it might move around a little bit. And I think it's actually pretty low risk because you have to have the feature turned on. And it's actually, you would have to be relying on, like, if you wrote tests that assert against your console output, like Node's own test did, then it's breaking. But probably it's a minority of projects that would have tests that actually exercise that. Probably a pretty small group of people.
Okay, cool. I can try to look at the backporting.
Okay, does anyone have any other new business, or should we move on to argument parsing?
Argument parsing.
Yay.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I was pretty sold on Darcy and Joe's proposal at the last meeting, so I don't know.
Oh, I missed that.
I've been working furiously in this time to get this issue together. So I've my last week or so has been, I mean, I'm sure Roy can attest to it as well, pretty busy. Yeah, I'm putting together this consolidated issue with everything we talked about, and I'm probably minutes away from, not minutes, probably a half hour away from having the issue together. And I think I'm going to essentially label it or title it like parsargs v2, or we can call it something along those lines, with a consolidated, just like references and everything to what we discussed last week. I can share my screen again if you folks want to see.
Sure.
Sure, I don't have anything. Okay. Cool. So this is preview. I'm just trying to essentially, I want to outline maybe also like why we've taken this. So I don't have that in here yet, but like why we've taken a step back and are looking at this again. So anyways, I put the 2 links initially to the original issue that we've been tracking. So maybe this will essentially supersede it, kind of like say, hey, here's some historical reference of all the conversations we've had. And then here's the old PR. And then as I shared before, with what I believe to be sort of the problem statement and potential solutions, left those in, and then would like to track some action items in terms of which I think, number one, I just want to make sure that when we come back to the table, we have like a whole bunch of edge cases and examples together, which I had started to create with all the different sort of examples we were putting together last time we talked about this. And then I think that the then next steps would be, I'm going to pass this off to Joe and let Joe go be the have those conversations, I think, with, as long as we're all in consensus with what the implementation looks like, then go back to the maintainers and get consensus there before then doing the work to actually do the implementation. So I don't have that last one as the action item to actually do the work, because I still think that, you know, we want to be mindful that we don't want to like waste our time if we design something that's not going to get buy-in from the folks that are going to review it. I don't think the hard thing here is the actual writing the code, right? So yeah, so new proposal, I also like created just like a diff so folks could see, you know, what exactly changed between at least the documented parse args documentation here. So that might be a quick like synopsis. There's the markdown, and then I'm fleshing out examples right now. So
I would, you know, one thought I'm having is if someone came to this issue, I mean, I guess you're putting this in the tooling repo, but if someone came to this issue without the previous context of working through the V1 of this attempt, some of this might be confusing. Like problem statement almost seems to imply that it's, you know, based on current implementation as opposed to previously proposed implementation. You know what I mean?
You could say something like along the lines of like review from V1 from original. I don't know. Like, I agree with what you're saying, Joe. Like, we want to like encapsulate that this is the reason why I've framed it this way is that we're, you know, we went and read through all these conversations. We went and tried to summarize essentially what the feedback was. So maybe it's like summary of feedback, initial proposal. That like we can like make this less of a
I would maybe, and I don't mean to like nitpick here, but calling those links and resources original, I would just align the language to what you just said in the initial proposal implementation. You know what I mean? So that it's very clear that these are the two kind of, they're linked. Yeah. Cool.
We can look again here if you want, just that essentially what the differences are. So again, if we look at maybe at the first example, actually, I'll wait to, I have to clean up a bunch of the examples. I've been playing around with them with Joe, and then when we were on the call the other day, I didn't want to make sure they're accurate. But yeah, I believe the actual proposal here is accurate. So
cool.
any questions, any thoughts about like how I want to like essentially throw this? This is essentially like my spaghetti at the wall, and then I think like hopefully if there's any feedback, then we'll capture it here with this. I know that Isaac wanted to chime in on this, and I was talking with him. So just wanted to also make sure that he gets a chance to like give his feedback before we go for round 2 here.
I think I'll need to like really dig into the case by case uses of it, but what really jumped out at me was the splitting out of the values and actually go down to the parse output. I want to make sure I'm using the right terminology. The splitting out of the values in args, it's clever. I really like that because just the fact that it means that you can piece together, it means you're not losing information during the parse, which was the reason a lot of our more complex behavior existed in the argument parser, I think. So to me, it's seems like it works. Like is my gut. Yeah.
Yeah. Call it BYOV. Bring your own validation.
Yeah.
Like you know, so it's like we're not going to change the type of input, like the argv like passes an array. It's like we're not going to array of strings. We're not going to typecast. We're not going to do any coercion, right?
What was Isaac's gut about this approach?
I don't think he hasn't seen this.
Okay.
We've just discussed. He's like, I think he also went and looked at the historical. Like he was looking at the original PR, and so like I'm gonna get his input on this as well. I'm sure he has strong. He says he's got a couple like edge cases that I think. Again, he had the original proposal in mind when he brought that sentiment up. It was an off-the-cuff comment that he made in one of our calls today. Just as I said that we were going to be on this. He unfortunately couldn't make it today. I asked if he would like to join, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the really optimistic change from last time is that he mentioned he wouldn't try to kill it this time. So there's that.
Yeah.
I should go deep on this too, but I have no immediate feedback that would make me not want to see this opened. But I think I'll probably just try to grab a coffee and spend a couple hours parsing things with it and see if anything jumps out at me.
Yeah, I think opening this issue is a good step. I would also be interested in spending some time reading it over, and yeah, we can kind of give some initial feedback here before we take it to the main repo. So yeah, it seems like a good next step to me.
Cool. So I'll keep working on this. Like I said, it's probably got like another 20 minutes of just cleaning up. And also when this gets created, I'm not sure if you can edit, Joe, but feel free to edit this. Like feel free to like come in and add your spin on it. Because I think you're going to be the one to end up actually doing the implementation work. So I want to make sure that like this speaks to I'll put your name on here as well in terms of the fact we've been collaborating on this. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to work on it until you submit it. But if you want to work on it in a hackmd file or whatever, that's fine too. But I think probably the sooner we get this open, probably the better.
Yeah. I apologize. It's been a bit crazy. So
no apologies needed.
Yeah. So that's essentially the update there. We could noodle on like examples potentially if you want. There's just like a ton that I've and some of these are a bit old, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be cool to not necessarily right this moment, but it'd be cool to start writing some test cases.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the change doesn't change as much of the code like that is already there. Like my hope is actually we can reuse like most of what Chris had proposed, because I think it's essentially just going to be removing a lot of complexity. It's actually just like really like Ben's note is true. Like the idea here is that you don't lose any information and we make less assumptions.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I like that.
Cool.
So bring your own validation, BYOV.
Yeah.
I have a test suite that we could use. It might be worth looking at that I will link.
Right.
From Yards, yeah.
Yards parser is like Yards' parser is split out into its own project called Yards parser and has like a pretty big test suite in one file, which we don't want to support that whole test suite, but we can at least see a bunch of weird edge cases if you read through it, because it has basically years worth of weird edge cases that people have pointed out. If you're curious,
I'd be okay with throwing, an initial implementation into that. That sounds
3,000 lines of weird edge cases for you.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, it's good to see more progress on that.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Darcy.
No problem. I apologize again, trying to get this together.
That's cool.
Yeah, the design, obviously I took the time to really think about it that one night, and that spawned most of like the ideation on this in this area, and like the design. It sort of, again, it just kind of like struck me as like the perfect, like why, if the core problem here is that we're trying to do too much and make too many assumptions, why don't we just like parse these things separately?
Yeah. Cool.
I'm trying to, it seems almost too simple. Like I really like it, but I'm like, why isn't this how like?
Is it wrong? Tell me why.
What's wrong? What's wrong? Yeah, it just seems like, but maybe there's nothing wrong and it's just a good design. So
yeah, I think it's just because we're only trying to cover that maybe like 80% use case, right? I think that's where really all that complexity comes in, and something like Yards or other parsers is trying to cover all the use cases.
Yeah. Well, because I think about it like, so Dino just ships with a fork of Minimist, basically. That's their standard library parser, which is kind of similar to what we're doing here, actually. Like it's just a slightly even trimmed down version of Minimist. Python is something closer to, I think Python's arg parsing stuff is a little closer to Yargs, where it's kind of full featured, get a nice output, like it does a lot for you. So I don't know, I think we're landing on a good middle ground here, which I like.
Yeah, the goal was to keep it simple, right? And if people need something more advanced, they can use a third-party library.
Yep.
You can essentially roll your own. Like I had a more advanced example of like almost rolling your own Yargs, like very, and without a lot of lines, like not
on top of this.
Yeah, a bare bones like validation and like defaults, like having defaults and aliases. Like I had a whole like little, like I don't know, less than 100 lines or something. Yeah.
Cool.
Now's the time for someone to build that, because you can build a full ESM first argument parser, which is just in time for Node 12. With this as the foundation, would be kind of cool.
That'd be a fun like live stream or something. Anyone want to build that? I was actually going to ask you, Ben, if you wanted to come on a live stream with me and explain how to use Yargs with TypeScript properly. So
we'd have to get someone to explain it to me first.
Yeah, I'm hoping you do.
Because I don't. Well, I've actually been using Yargs as TypeScript types for a project for the first time, because I don't maintain them. Someone in the definitely typed wrote them. So I actually think they're a reference implementation in definitely typed to show off all the fancy features, because it like makes my eyes cross when I read it. It's like,
yeah, I've been using it. I'm pretty sure I'm not using it correctly.
I think I was being glib. I would happily at least try to talk about that. So.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, seriously, that could be a fun thing to do. Like try and build, some kind of more advanced parser on top of this new library or something.
Yeah. What have I been thinking? I've been thinking about like what the journey looks like for Yargs to support ESM as we move towards Node 12 and beyond. So I think it's actually a lot easier for like new libraries to just do that from the get-go that don't have a user base yet, and then some of these older libraries like Yargs, where they're kind of hampered down by their existing community and they need to figure out a path forward. So it's going to be an interesting year for JavaScript.
Does anyone have any other business they want to bring up? Announcements, anything? No NPM news?
We do, right? What are we up to, Darcy? Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah, we're hiring. No?
I was going to say
Yes.
that on this call. I don't know if that's kosher. But yeah, we're growing our team. Yeah, we're working on quite a few things in our neck of the woods. I know Roy's working on improved workspace support, and we're sort of ideating on and noodling on some of that. Yeah.
I should just let Darcy speak next time. I'm the no filter person around here.
I don't know what the rules are for these meetings. It was me and Chris Hiller started this meeting, I think. So
Yeah, this is not official.
Maybe we should have rules. Right? Yeah, no, NPM does not get to pitch jobs on this call. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. we might be held to some things just as part of like how a group runs as part of the Node project. I don't know. Probably Joe would know a little better than me, actually. But, I have a fun thing I'll share too. Not a hiring announcement, but I'll put in chat. The release tool I've been working on for the last couple of years is getting really cool. My colleague added support for multiple branches now because we're having to support LTS release lines for our Java team now. So we need to support LTS for enterprise customers, and then we have our mainline release too. So we've actually been landing a ton of features around, like it's smart enough to actually have releases coming from multiple branches now. So you can have like your main branch, which always has what's being released, and then you can have a like LTS branch that will also get release PRs created for it. It's pretty cool. And then we're also working on mono repo support right now, so that we can, because I have this need. We have a few libraries where there's like 150 libraries in one repo, and so we just need to make that a little easier. So we're working on that. So try it out if you're interested.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Let me know about that mono repo support.
Oh, it's super close. So, yeah, there's a fellow on a different team than mine at Google who's been pitching in to build it because his team needs it. So, but it's a beautiful design. So it looks like it should be done pretty soon. Whereas I would have just hacked something together, I'm sure. So it's been humbling to see someone build something good rather than the sorts of things I build. Okay, well, I guess that's all of the items in our agenda for the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all that's on my mind. We still haven't had a meeting to kind of outline just general goals for 2021, but we also have a bunch of things in the works that seem great. So I don't know if we need to, I don't feel any huge pressure to get more work on our plate right now. I don't know how people are feeling.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we could probably be a little while before we ship argument parsing, and we have copy-r. The one thing I would like to maybe say is, especially as we do the copy-r work, if we do go the route of kind of using something from the community and just kind of blessing it as a standard library inside Node, kind of continue to think about how we standardize that process and kind of make that continue to make it easier for even an external contributor to make that kind of proposal. Because one thing that comes to my mind is that like Dino has a huge standard library comparatively to Node, and like I've definitely seen, I mean, in the next 10 years with an emphasis on usability of the code base, and with people getting used to these other alternate runtimes for JavaScript, it's just, I think, worth having on our minds how we scale this type of work. So if we were going to have a meeting where we plan 2021 work, that would be the theme I would be advocating, is like, can we scale this beyond the core group of people on this call? Can we make this, can we have a recipe for this type of work instead of just doing it as piecemeal like we have been? So just, I don't know, food for thought.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put on people's minds.
Yeah, I think it's a good thought.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think maybe even getting through the copy-r process will, because we are kind of trying to approach it in a little bit more thoughtful way than we did with Rimraf. So maybe even that becomes kind of a good template for doing that in the future or something.
I agree. And I think just write down how we did it and even make it easy for other people to propose doing that. So not that we need to pull everything into the Node core. It's like this balance, right? Like you want something that's pretty full featured, but you don't want it to have everything in the kitchen sink. So it's the classic argument of small core. Medium-sized core. What's that look like? What's that? Yeah.
I know a big like driving factor for that for me has been doing more serverless stuff with Node. If you're going like, full like serverless framework where you're bundling dependencies and all of that, then it's fine to use something use like packages from NPM. But if you're trying to just build a quick function for something, like that was where the fetch missing really was kind of an issue for me. Just wanted to make a really simple request to an endpoint, and doing that with like, the HTTP library is super awkward.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that is the end of the meeting. Thanks for everyone who joined, and see y'all in 2 weeks.
yeah, have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good weekend. Bye-bye.